the meeting is now enabled then, please. And can we confirm that from comms? Confirmed, thank you for that. Okay, we're now live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's Cabinet meeting. Due to the rising COVID-19 rates in the district, the decision has been taken to hold today's meeting virtually to enable it to take place safely. The regulations which allowed local authorities to hold online decision-making meetings lapsed as of the 7th of May, so this meeting has no formal decision-making power. Consequently, following the meeting, the Chief Executive will use the formal decision-making powers he has, taking into account the recommendations of Cabinet using emergency delegated powers. If everyone is content with this approach, then we shall proceed to the agenda. Okay, I'm not getting any notes to that. So move on to the agenda. So we have apologies this morning from the Leader of the Council, so I will be taking her reports on the agenda. Can we move on to the minutes? Are we happy that they are a correct record?
Move them, Chair.
Thank you. We'll move on to Chair's announcements then. There are no announcements that I intend to make this morning. I also have no urgent items that I wish to bring before Cabinet. So move on to declaration of interest. Members are reminded of the requirement to make an appropriate verbal declaration at the meeting on any items on the agenda in which they have an interest. Having done so, members are then asked to complete the relevant form detailing the declaration, which will be available from committee services. Item 6, exclusion of the public and press. Just to note that agenda item 17 is considered to be exempt because it likely involves a disclosure of information that is exempt under Part 1, Schedule 1, 12A of the Local Government Act as amended. So that will be excluded as the last item on the agenda and be heard in private. We'll move on now to the key decisions and reports. The first item is the West Yorkshire devolution deal, consent to non-transport borrowing powers. The West Yorkshire devolution deal included provisions for the West Yorkshire Combined Authority to be given powers for non-transport borrowing functions. When the draft devolution order was considered and approved by the Combined Authority and the 5 West Yorkshire councils in November 2020, it was reported that the consent of each authority would be required to any future regulations, giving the Combined Authority powers to borrow for non-transport related functions, but that this would then progress separately at a later date to the making of the order to enable progress to be made. A separate legislation is required to confirm this. This report therefore asks Cabinet to provide the Council's consent in principle to such regulations now, following indications from Government that they intend to lay a draft order conferring these functions to the Combined Authority in late January of this year. The recommendations are set out at 3.1, and just to add that approval of this will allow the full benefits of the devolution deal to be realised for the people of Wakefield and West Yorkshire. So at that point, I'm happy to take any questions from Cabinet colleagues on that matter or any comments. Okay, I'm not seeing any in the comment box, so I'll take it as that report can be agreed, please. Thank you, colleagues. The next item relates to a Streets for People scheme for horse fair Pontefract. This item is down as my report on the agenda, but is actually Councillor Morley's report. So I will pass to Councillor Morley at this point for him to move the report.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Yes, to seek the report today is to seek Cabinet's approval to accept grant funding from the Transforming Cities Fund to support the delivery of a Streets for People scheme for horse fair Pontefract, and to enter into funding agreement with West Yorkshire Combined Authority to underwrite the sum of 1.5 million in the capital programme to support the construction of the horse fair scheme. The benefits of the scheme is for transport and environmental improvements on horse fair. This will also act as a catalyst for the regeneration of Pontefract area by improving and connecting the town centre with the castle. The scheme will encourage active travel, prioritise the movement of people on foot, by bike and by using public transport. So the scheme is very much in what we're looking to do around the district, especially the town of Pontefract, and will really help regenerate that. So what I'm recommending today, Deputy Leader, is that we accept option 1 in the report on agenda page 14 at 6.1. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Councillor Morley. Any questions or comments on that report? Not seeing. Councillor Graham, you've got a question, comment.
Thanks, Jack. Just to welcome the report, down at Pontefract Castle, we've obviously invested a lot of money into the place, and we're holding a lot of interesting events there. A very popular destination, and I think anything that we can be doing to improve that connection between the town centre and the castle is very much welcome. So can't wait to see this all come to fruition, and thanks, Matthew, for bringing it.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And I reassure everybody that this scheme will be very, very respectful of the historic significance of the castle, and also the support of what have you, the town centre. It will really, really connect the two, and it's going to be a very exciting scheme for Pontefract. What we'll do, and also building on these schemes we're doing down Ropergate as well, making that cafe culture is going to be an exciting place over the next 12 months. Is Pontefract, and seeing these schemes come to fruition.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. An exciting scheme, and obviously welcome the environmental improvements identified in there as well. Any further questions or comments on that report? Okay, well, can we agree that report, please? Councillor Isherwood, you've got a question.
No, I'm just agreeing the report, Jack.
All right, okay, thank you. Okay, well, I shall take hands raised at that point as agreement in future. So thank you for that, much appreciated, Margaret. So we'll move on to agenda item 9, which is the Newton Bar Back to Nature Rewilding Scheme, which is my report to Cabinet. And I want to start by saying that we take environmental concerns very seriously at this authority. And when residents and environmental groups contacted us with some concerns about the Newton Bar Road scheme late last year, we wanted to make sure that these were properly considered. While the original scheme was consulted on in 2018 and subsequently approved, this was prior to our climate and biodiversity emergency declarations, and therefore also provided justification for a period of review and for Cabinet to look again at this scheme. And I'm pleased to say today that the review is now complete and has resulted in the paper before us. Now, I don't intend to go through this report line by line, but I will provide a summary of where we are and what the report means. The strategic implications of the report are set out at section 7.1 and the climate implications at section 9.3, which are pages 24 and 27 respectively. In essence, the report concludes that the overall purpose of the scheme is to reduce congestion, improve provision for buses, and make the highway network safer and more accessible for cyclists and pedestrians. While the report does acknowledge the concerns about the loss of approximately 0.6 hectares or around 110 mature trees, additional mitigations are now suggested which go above and beyond the original plans. As you will see, option 3 of the report proposes the creation of a brand new wildlife area immediately adjacent to the road site. This will not only offset those tree losses that are identified, but will create a new corridor for nature in what is a very heavily urbanised area. Alongside the measures in the original scheme, around 1 hectare or 200 additional trees will be planted, nature ponds will be created, bird boxes, bat boxes installed, and a new pathway made through the area for local residents to get into town safely. In all, this means more than 300 trees and 200 shrubs will be planted in total to replace those removed for the works, and when reaching maturity, these will begin to actively improve biodiversity in a nature-depleted area. As for the scheme itself, it is clear from officers' investigations that if we didn't progress with the road junction as consulted and agreed back in 2018, that not only would we have the £8.3 million of external WICA funding lost, but the council would have to pay very significant compensation to the contractors involved. The benefits of extra pedestrian crossings on a busy and frankly dangerous road would be lost too, as well as the new bus and cycle lanes that are proposed. While not the main focus of the scheme, these will provide some much better greener travel options for that part of the city, supporting our climate agenda. I do believe, therefore, that this paper presents a pragmatic way forward with a proposal that delivers what our residents need in terms of reducing congestion and traffic delays, but also enhancing local nature longer term. The recommendation, therefore, is that Cabinet support option 3 as set out on page 26 of the agenda, and with that, I will move the report. Any questions from colleagues? I've got Councillor Morley initially, and then Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Yes, obviously, as speaking as a local member, I welcome this. Jack, as you well know, it's our ward that this is on the very edge of, and quite frankly, the walking, cycling around that area is non-existent. And when you see people who have, issues who can't cross roads, as we all can, it's quite worrying that people can't get across. So putting these crossings in place, putting the cycling in place will be a massive improvement in that area. But also something that Newton really needs is some new public open space. I really welcome that. I think the residents of Newton Hill will welcome that as well. It's much needed there. But I've always said it's not always the massive multi-million pound schemes that are the biggest issue. It's always the little schemes. And the fact that we are still committed to putting in that memorial to the police that lost their life in that tragic accident in 1978, I still think that's the right thing to do. And we can incorporate that now into that new public open space, and also the pit wheel that we're wanting to put in there to the people of the pit that was stood on that site many years ago. So I really welcome the scheme. I think it's a positive scheme to accompany the highway scheme on that stretch of road. I'm looking forward to moving forward on that. So thank you very much for your help and support.
Thanks, Matthew. Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Yeah, like you, and I know you have concerns about the trees that are going to be felled. And yes, we're going to plant another 200-300 trees, but as you know, that it does take time for those trees to mature. I mean, we had some planted down at Featherstone Warhorse 8 years ago, and they're still not there at maturity. Is there a possibility, and I know it can be done, that we could actually look to transplant some of the mature trees that are already there onto the new wilding site, so that we have actually a start with mature trees before the other ones actually grow, and that should alleviate some of the problems with the environment, I would have thought.
Thanks, Margaret. I'll just come back on that point before I bring colleagues in. As with you, nobody wants to see any tree felling take place, and there's always a balance here between the transport needs of people and the impact it has on nature. And I do feel that now with the increased planting, we have got that right. But you are absolutely right. We need to try and create something a bit more mature than just saplings that are going to take years to have any benefits for nature. So part of the original scheme is going to include root balling. So those mature trees that are able to be transplanted and moved safely without a significant loss rate will be done so. And it seems like the perfect place to try and move them onto the adjacent site. I know some investigations are ongoing at the moment about self-seeded trees on the wildlife area to see if they can be allocated to the new nature site too. So we will look to save every tree that we can. We won't fell trees unnecessarily, and certainly understand your concerns around that particular point. Councillor Graham, I've got next, and then Councillor Byford and Councillor Cummings.
Thanks, Jack. I think everyone who knows this roundabout will know it's an absolutely nightmare roundabout to be on, especially at peak times. And everyone can see the traffic backing up for miles. It's one of the main ways into Wakefield and out of Wakefield. And I think this scheme will really improve the air quality, among other things. I mean, you've got it all listed in the report, all the benefits. And for me, safety is really important as well. It's being able to cross that roundabout, not just, it's not just about the people who are using it in vehicles, it's about pedestrians as well. So I really welcome everything that's coming. For me, I will never sit in this cabinet and vote to give 8.3 million back to anyone. Well, that I just couldn't live with myself, and I certainly will never vote to give £2 million, up to £2 million of compensation to developers or to West Yorkshire of anything. It's just not going to happen for me. I'm sorry. So I've listened to what everyone's had to say. Local residents, the vast majority of them, want this to go ahead and do not want us to be giving compensation to anyone. That's their taxpayers' money, and we need to be protecting it. So I am fully in support of this. I sympathise with those who have concerns about the project, but on this occasion, I don't agree with it. So much welcome the report, and happy it's going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. I've got Councillor Byford next.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. So after reading this report, are we saying at the end of it all that there will be more trees and shrubs planted, there'll be more biodiversity, There'll be more green, open public space in that area. There'll be more cycle lanes. There'll be more safe crossing points. There'll be improved public transport travel times. There'll be less queuing and idling traffic. And there'll be massively improved air quality. Because if we are saying all of those things, does that not tick virtually every box that we should be looking to address in putting future schemes forward for traffic?
You make a very good point, Councillor Byford. I think it does tick all those boxes. I know there are some concerns about the increased traffic flows, and I understand that because there is a long-term objective at combined authority levels to reduce vehicle journeys. There are so many positives to this scheme as well that you've all correctly identified there that I think will have a real positive impact for the green agenda. So thank you for those comments. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Deputy Leader, and I too just want to add my say to what's already been said. Really, I absolutely welcome the question from Councillor Isherwood about the replanting. I wasn't aware of that. I think that's an absolutely excellent idea to save trees where we can, particularly the more mature ones. And I understand that, you know, when saplings are planted, it's going to take a number of years for them to get to beneficial state. It is a fine balance around that area. I mean, I am a car driver, as many of us on this call are, and I've up Leeds Road or up the lane that goes up to the hospital. And if this makes it easier, then that's fine. And there is the safety issue as well around people getting across that roundabout, the walkers. It is unsafe. I've been round that roundabout when people have been sort of dithering on the edge, so I welcome that. So thank you, yes, and I fully support the scheme.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Cummings, and I think that's all the comments and questions I've got. So thank you all for your comments and questions on that report. Are we to agree? Thank you very much, colleagues. Move on to agenda item 10, which is the inward investment strategic tools to achieve a well-being economy. And this is Councillor Byford's report. Would you like to move it, please?
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Thank you, Jack. So this report is asking Cabinet to allow the Council to do more to attract high-quality inward investment, which will result in a better environment, better jobs and higher skilled jobs for our residents. And this is about making businesses that wouldn't normally choose Wakefield, give them choose Wakefield, by increasing our competitiveness across the West Yorkshire district. We currently have standard incentives like any other West Yorkshire authority for all businesses, like small capital grants, business support programs and so on. But this is about us standing out from the crowd, making Wakefield the go-to place for new businesses to come. So we can truly start to diversify our economy and to move away from the usual low-paid, low-skilled jobs, which will always naturally come to our district because of the location of the motorway network and our industrial legacy. So we are proposing a set of tools which will allow our colleagues in economic growth to be able to work with businesses to attract them to the district. That's important because we would like to bring businesses to this district jobs, which will benefit our residents and will benefit the overall environment from well-being through to working, travelling, and the overall green environment also. So with that, I'd like to move this report.
Thanks for that, Councillor Byford. And yeah, we absolutely Wakefield to be a great place to do business. It is already, but can we make it better? So fully support this report. I've got a question from Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Yes, I welcome the report. Just a couple of questions, Darren, because obviously we're wanting to attract high skill. There's still a place for the low skill jobs that we have in the district. But I think the first question is, what will we be doing to encourage people to upskill from where they are now? And also, because of the situation where Wakefield is, we're straight on the motorway, close to Leeds, Bradford, is there any way we can guarantee that these new jobs will predominantly be for local residents?
Two extremely good questions there, Margaret. Thank you very much indeed for that. So you're quite right, because of our wonderful location on the M1, M62, A1, and our great connections on the railway network, we're always going to attract people. And we're always going to attract those jobs that tend to want large warehouse operations. And they tend to be relatively low-skilled, low-paid jobs. And we welcome those because there will always be a part in the district for that type of employment. But this is about moving it forward to that next generation, to bringing in more skilled jobs. And those skilled jobs will be working, we will be as a council, working with them throughout service. Routes to market to be able to develop those skills. We have a good track record and step-up program, just as two examples, and of course with our award-winning adult education service. So with those three options in place, we can work with businesses to see where the gaps are to plug them. I like what you're saying about, can we come up with some scheme or other to ensure that it's our local residents that get those jobs. And I'll go away and I'll speak with colleagues to see what we can do on that one, because I think that is an absolute splendid idea. So thank you for that, Margaret.
Thank you for that, Margaret and Councillor Byford. I've no further questions indicated to me, so can we agree this report, please? Thank you, colleagues. Move on to agenda item 11, which is the Wakefield District Retail Support Scheme. Again, this is one for you, Councillor Byford.
Thank you again, Deputy Leader. So this report recognises the activities that have been taking place across the district to support our retail sector. And now we seek an additional £720,000 capital investment to support issues facing the retail sector in and around Wakefield city centre, where many of the challenges faced by retail are at their most acute. On this basis, the intention behind the city centre retail support grant scheme is to address the issue of persistent void empty units in specific targeted areas, which are the undermining the vibrancy of the city centre as we come out of the recovery, and we're doing rather well as we come out of the recovery as we speak at the moment. We've not seen the positive impacts that some of the schemes have had, for example, in Castleford and in Pontefract and in Nottingham. But now we want to bring those positive benefits to the city centre and try and reduce the number of empty shops, which are much higher in certain areas than elsewhere. This, for example, and levering private investment from landlords will create new jobs, higher footfall and increase spend, and support the changes from use to retail and hospitality to leisure in these units. Addressing the retail blight is key to fully realising the impact of the other investments in the city centre and to achieve our ambitions, our great ambitions within the master plan for the Wakefield city centre. The biggest areas that we have these issues at the moment are on Wood Street, certain parts of Kergate, certain parts of Cross Street, and not forgetting the two small retail centres as you come into Wakefield on Doncaster Road and Westgate. This fund will enable us to work with landlords, to work with business operators, and to work with others in those areas to make a real positive difference. And that's why this scheme is important. It's all about enhancing what is available for the residents of Wakefield District. And these areas will benefit dramatically from this fund. So with that, I'd like to move this report.
Thank you, Councillor Byford. Any questions or comments on that report? Councillor Cummings.
Yes, I welcome this, particularly the two roads that lead into the centre, Doncaster Road and Westgate. I think we've not helped them for a long time, and therefore they've become very, I don't know, they don't look good when you're coming into the city centre, and certainly they're two of the main arterial routes into the city centre. And to do some improvements along those two routes for me is key to encouraging people actually to come into the town centre. So I welcome the report.
Thank you for that, Councillor Cummings. We've got a comment from Councillor Morley.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Leader. Darren, once again, a really positive report that you're fetching forward for the city of Wakefield. As somebody that works in the hospitality sector, whose family runs a business in there, we talk a lot about how our city centres, our town centres nationally are in crisis and dying, but there is still a growing trend within the catering hospitality industry, and we're seeing that in Wakefield. The amount of restaurants that are open on a night time, the amount of people that's coming into our city of Wakefield to sample and try them restaurants is actually seeing how, you know, our towns are changing a lot, from retail to hospitality, to people coming in to socialise more, to enjoy more. So I'm hoping what you're fetching forward here will support that. We'll see a significant difference in the city, especially as Councillor Cummins says, in them two massive gateways into the city as well. So really positive report as always from the Regen team. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Councillor Moore, and also thank you for that, Councillor Cummins. And this is just part of the big plan that we have for all of our town and our city centre, about bringing people, welcoming people back into the retail spaces, and also down on Chantry and possibly, and also down on Kirkgate, bringing more residential back into the city centre, which in the longer term will support the vibrancy of all of our town centres. So I thank you for those positive comments. And just as a last plug, if anybody wants to look at the Centre for Cities report for Wakefield, how well this district is doing compared with the rest of the country, it makes fascinating reading. Please have a look.
Thanks for that, Councillor Byford. Yeah, I've looked at that report, and apparently we're one of the top performing areas in the country, aren't we, in terms of footfall, which is really fantastic news. So hopefully this scheme will enhance that further. Excellent. Can we agree that report, colleagues? I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item, which is item 12, provision of the new foul sewer at City Fields, Wakefield. Again, this is one for you, Councillor Byford.
I get all the exciting things. So thank you again, Deputy Leader. Thank you, Jeff. So this report is asking Council to underwrite an additional £500,000 that may be needed to ensure that the sewer can be constructed on the City Field site. And with it, an additional 800 homes will then be able to come forward on land that is owned by the council. The originally £1.5 million funding towards the sewer, which is coming from external sources, costs have increased significantly from when the sewer was first approved back in 2018. And that is the reason why we are asking for a potential amount of money of up to 500,000 to plug that shortfall. Tenders are currently will be evaluated over the next couple of weeks, and we will know more positively what that number will be. But we are estimating that £500,000 on top of the 1.5 million that we've got will allow us to do the necessary work on that sewer, improving the quality of land down in that particular area, and increase the value of the council's land significantly for when we take it to market for developers to develop those spaces. And with that, I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Byford. I have just a comment on this before, in case any colleagues want to speak, but just to say, obviously, I do welcome this. We need to provide the infrastructure. We know we're building a huge amount of housing down at City Fields, and it's only right we look to provide what's necessary. But I do, in terms of section 9.3 and the climate implications, it would be good when we look at the biodiversity net gain and planting to see how this could link up with the Southern Washlands and also the Welbeck Country Park, and whether there's potential to link that planting up to create a bigger green area when that takes place. So welcome for the dialogue on that.
I welcome that comment as well, and I will take that away. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a comment from Councillor Morley.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Leader. On a similar vein, Councillor Byford, we've seen, you know, there's no shortage of houses along City Fields that was always proposed, and I may say houses that are not left empty very, very long. So providing much needed homes for families in the Wakefield district and probably further afield who want to move into our fantastic area. But I am concerned as we move forward with this, especially around the Flash. Stanley Flash is a local member, you know, it's not in our ward, and up the Southern Washlands, how we can enhance and improve them areas and make them a real feature for people to come and visit. We've seen over the last 18 months or so, especially in the first lockdown and during the massive long winter lockdown of last year, how much these areas were used. People that actually didn't even know there was there came and visited. So they have become a massive attraction. So I think if we can, I think we should put some infrastructure to help and support these natural habitats as we move forward with this scheme.
Okay, Councillor Morley, have you got any further comments, Councillor Byford, before we wrap things up?
No, I fully concur with yours and with Matthew's statement about what should we do with the southern washlands and can we tie it into a bigger project for greener open space. I think that the answer to that is we should seriously look at that with a view to doing something positive.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll subject to those further discussions about that separately. Can we agree this report? Okay, thank you for that, colleagues. We'll now move on to the non-key decision reports. And the first report is Building a Fairer Future, which is the Council's new corporate plan for 2022 to 24 and can be found on page 77 of the agenda. I intend to just summarise this a bit before bringing in Jackie Moles, who's been our policy director working on this really excellent piece of work. I'm delighted to present to you the Council's draft corporate plan today, and it's going to be considered subject to our endorsement by full council at the February meeting. It sets out what we're about as a council over the next 2 years, building a fairer future for everyone in our district. I'd like to express a sincere thank you to everyone that supported the development of the plan. It's been a huge piece of work and gives us real foundations for the future. Pages 5 to 6 of the plan sets out our recent achievements, not just around recovering from the pandemic, but also showcases our investments and actions to safeguard the future of our district and our communities over the last year. I think the plan shows how this council and its staff responded not just to the pandemic, but continue to deliver for local people across our district. And our recent Ofsted rating for children's services, showing us to be the fastest improving children's services in the country, is just one recent example of this. These priority actions in the plan are built on what local people need and want, and we'll be continuing to listen to our communities. This will be through our forthcoming big conversation exercise, and more details of this can be found on page 9 of the plan. There'll be a greater focus on equality, diversity and inclusion, and that's central to how we go forward. Page 4 sets out how we'll be taking this agenda forward and developing it further, and there'll be more coming to Cabinet later in 2022. The corporate plan also includes a delivery plan, which will outline some of the key activities and initiatives that we will deliver as a council over the next 24 months. And for example, the plan is set to support £48 million of investment in Wakefield and Castleford town and city centres from the Towns Fund, 10 million of council investment in other town centres around the district, including South Emsall, South Kirby, Morthorpe, Hemsworth, Ossett and Horbury, £20 million from the Levelling Up Fund, 12 million of which will go towards a new city library and museum, and £8 million towards phase 2 of Rutland Mills. There'll also be 2.5 million Pontefract Streets for People project, as Councillor Morley outlined earlier, to develop connectivity between the town centre and our fantastic heritage asset in the council, in the castle. In addition, the 2-year corporate plan will also support plans to secure new investment in Nottingley, South Kirby, Ferrybridge and South Emsall motorway corridors to attract new businesses and well-paid jobs to our district. Employment training and apprentice opportunities will be created for 4,000 residents, 3 brand new youth to support our young people to learn new skills, take part in activities and access support where appropriate, investment in adult education and learning activities across the 10 towns, and partnership working across West Yorkshire to deliver the £384,000 Safer Street Fund, which will look to improve safety for women and girls. I know Councillor Cummings and the new Mayor for West Yorkshire have been working very hard on this agenda. I'd now like to hand over to Jackie. Jackie, as I said, is the Service Director for Strategy and Improvement Intelligence, who will take you through the report in more detail. So over to you, Jackie. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. So yes, the corporate plan 2022-24 sets the direction of travel for the council, its priorities now and also in the future. And it sets out how the council will continue to support the district in recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the council's wider aspirations for the future. The plan is underpinned by some guiding principles, and they're set out on page 3 and 4 of the plan. That's pages 85 to 86 of the agenda pack. First principle is around partnership collaboration, because the council knows that we can't deliver any of these outcomes on our own. We need to work with others, including our partners in health, police, the voluntary and community sector, as well as businesses. And we also want to work alongside residents and communities, working together on common causes to achieve the outcomes set out in the corporate plan. The second principle is around good governance and the council's commitment to ensure that all of our decisions are open and transparent, and that the council is accountable for the decisions that it makes and the action it takes. And the third principle, as Deputy Leader mentioned, is about equality, diversity and inclusion. And the council is committed to promoting equality and diversity across the council and across the district. And as such, the council will be developing and publishing a new set of equality objectives and a new equality action plan, which will be brought forward later in the year for approval through Cabinet. The corporate plan, as you can see from pages 12 to 6 plan, that's pages 94 to 98 of the agenda pack, covers the 5 strategic priorities that the plan is framed around. And these priorities are all, each of them are a key component for ensuring that we have a thriving district. And the plan is also accompanied by a detailed delivery plan, which is set out on pages 22 to 31 of the plan. And this details the key actions and initiatives that will be delivered over the next 2 years. So just to quickly go through the 5 strategic priorities, places to be proud of on page 12. This is about supporting community development. It includes activities to support resident participation and engagement, and measures to support community safety, as well as culture, arts and sports initiatives that will be happening over the next 2 years. An economy that works for everyone on page 13 is concerned with economic development. It describes the council's ambition to develop an economy that benefits everyone and includes initiatives to support employment and skills, as well as adult learning, business support, and our regeneration plans for the city and 9 towns. The council will also be working with the West Yorkshire Combined Authority to ensure that Wakefield District continues to benefit from any investment opportunities coming through the Combined Authority. Better Health and Lives on page 14 is about continuing to improve health and well-being and the quality of life of residents across the district, and it covers our plans to deliver a range of health initiatives designed to help people to have the best physical and mental health. The council will continue to work closely with our NHS partners to empower people to live independently and to provide support for those who are vulnerable through initiatives such as our Help at Hubs, supporting residents with issues such as fuel poverty, food banks, homelessness, and also health promotion. Thriving Children and Families on page 15 of the plan sets out our continuing commitment to ensure that all children have the best start in life and are able to live happy and fulfilling childhoods. The council will support parents and families through the Wakefield Families Together cluster bases and transform residential services for children with special educational needs. And we'll also continue to work closely with schools and other partners to ensure that all children are able to reach their potential. And then the final strategic priority is a greener Wakefield district, page 16 of the plan. And this restates the council's commitment to support the climate change agenda, with plans to reduce our own carbon emissions as an organisation, and also to support waste minimisation, recycling, make parks and green spaces accessible to everyone. And activities include our tree planting programme, which aims to plant 250,000 trees over the next 2 years, park improvements, and also support to 400 vulnerable households with energy efficient measures. So further details of the activities and initiatives that will be undertaken over the next 2 years are covered in the delivery plan at page 22. The plan also on page 19 sets out the council's aim to be a forward-thinking and modern organisation that values its workforce, that uses technology to improve the experience for residents and customers, and our ongoing work to ensure sound financial and risk management in everything we do. proposal is that there will be updates against the delivery plan, which will be reported to Cabinet every 6 months, so that members and the public can be kept up to date with our actions and progress. And to complement the plan, we've also just released an updated 2022 State of the District report. And this gives a comprehensive overview of the district and its communities, and it includes some key facts and figures and statistics about the local population. So please take a look at that as well, and that's now available on the council website. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Jackie, and hopefully that was a very comprehensive update on the really good corporate plan that we've now produced to take us forward. I've got a question from Councillor Cummings and then a comment from Councillor Collins. So
yeah, it's a question and a comment, and I don't think we can say enough times a massive thank you to all our staff that worked tirelessly over the last 22 months or so, and also a massive thank you to all those in the voluntary sector that supported some very vulnerable people. I think it's a great piece of work. It's easy reading, but I wonder if we could make it easier, certainly for the general public. I wonder if there's some sort of a way we could do an infographics version of this, which just gives the headlines to actually encourage residents across the district to read it and see some of the fantastic work that the council have done, but also the vision that the council has for the future. So as I say, it is a question. Is there any infographic that we could do that is easily distributed to residents so they can see that the amount of work that we do?
I think that's a very good suggestion, Maureen, and hopefully we can look to take that forward. I've got a comment from Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Deputy Leader. Yeah, I just want to start by congratulating Jackie and all the staff that has been involved in developing this corporate plan. It has been quite a quick turnaround, and I think it captures perfectly the vision of this council and the way in which we want to engage with residents. Particularly looking at the work around the big conversation, I think this proves the commitment from the council to our residents and ensuring that they do get a voice in shaping those future services. I welcome it, and I look forward to seeing progress that is made on it in coming months.
Thank you for that, Michelle. Have you any final comments, Jackie, before we move the report?
Just to confirm that, yes, there will be a community version of the plan, Councillor Cummings, so that will be coming forward. Thank you.
Great, that's really good to hear. Okay, then with that, can we agree the report and recommend it is brought before council? Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Jackie, for your attendance. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the initial budget proposals for 2022-2023. And this report sets out the council's initial budget proposals for the period and how council will continue to invest in services and in the regeneration of our district, with clear links to the council's corporate plan, which we've just moved. The report articulates the scale of the budget challenge which we face for the next financial year, and it is some £32.5 million, still with the pressures that we're facing from increased costs and from lack of funding from central government in many respects. The proposals that we've managed to deliver do deliver a balanced budget while also delivering on the people's priorities with investment in parks, town centres, youth provision and many other areas of improvement for residents. The report includes information on the financial challenges facing the council in the medium and longer term, and the recommendation today is that Cabinet are asked to agree the initial budget proposals and for them to be submitted to the scrutiny process and also for wider consultation. Following this period of consultation, the budget will come back to, the draft budget I should say, will come back to Cabinet next month for recommendation to a budget full council meeting in March. Are there, actually before I bring colleagues in, Neil, Warren, have you any further comments on the budget as Finance Officer?
Thank you, Councillor Hemway. No, I think you've touched on everything I was going to say in your introduction, so no, thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Neil. Any questions or comments from colleagues on the initial budget proposals? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so can we agree the initial budget proposals? Thank you very much. They'll now progress to consultation. Moving on to agenda item 15, which is the financial health report from the period April to November 21-22. This sets out a marginal underspend of £439,000 forecast, with a summary by directorate shown at table 1 in the report. Further detailed information is included in section 6 of the report and also set out at appendix 1. Section 7 of the report provides information on the council's reserves, with information about council tax and business rates included at section 8. The recommendation is that Cabinet are asked to note the forecast revenue budget position for the council for the 21-22 financial year. Again, Neil, I'll bring you in at this point if you have any comments as finance officer before we open it to colleagues.
Thanks, Councillor Hemingway. I think I'd just make the link back into the initial budget proposals report and give that assurance to Cabinet members that what's included in the in-year financial monitoring, the variations, the pressures and the savings have been reflected into those initial budget proposals, as you would expect. And there's nothing in this latest report that is out of kilter with the initial budget proposals we're now releasing for consultation. Thank you.
Thanks for that assurance, Neil. Any comments or questions from colleagues on that? Okay, can we note the contents of that report then? Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 16, which is the annual complaints report for 2020-21. Councillor Collins, this is your paper. Would you like to move it?
Yep, thank you, Deputy Leader, and I'll be brief. This report shows that over the last year, fewer complaints were made, and of those complaints that were made, fewer of them were upheld. The report also shows that fewer complaints were escalated, suggesting that as an authority, we are getting better at owning up to mistakes when they are made and resolving these quickly. There is an increase identified in learning, which proves that we're striving to learn from complaints, and this will also be reflected in the 10% reduction of complaints that we referred to the Ombudsman. Cabinet are asked to note the findings from the 2020-2021 annual complaints report.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. That's really good news to hear that complaints are falling. I know we all think we're a well-performing council and that we have been accredited that in the past, so it's good to hear that that seems to be chiming with the complaints figures, but we can obviously always do better. So thank you for moving that report. Any questions or comments from colleagues before we note that report? Councillor Byford.
Thank you, Deputy Leader, and thank you, Councillor Collins. I just wanted to say that this report, the detail that's in this report is absolutely astonishing, and it just shows what services we are providing and to the level that we are providing them at. And I just feel that at this moment in time, we should just reflect a little bit on some of the things that are actually on the report. And on agenda page 215, it says that there was a 43% reduction in the amount of complaints received at the council. And that's really important, because during the COVID pandemic, we have been open to some real scrutiny. We've continued to provide services that are key to the public. So I think we must shout about some of these numbers. And also that compliments were up year on year. An additional 359 residents, I'm assuming they're individual residents, have taken the time to say thank you to the council for something that we have done. And that, we really need to be pushing that forward very strongly. And I'm sure that we will see some of these complaints publicised in local media outlets over the next few weeks. But I think we need to put some of them in context. That again, if you look on page 216 of the agenda pack, that the top one is that we emptied around 2.6 million wheelie bins across the district, and out of that, there was only 231 complaints that were upheld. That's phenomenal. And we're doing all of this amazing work. I just feel that everybody that's been involved in this throughout the pandemic needs a real good pat on the back. And this just shows what a really good, high-performing local authority that we are. And we do all of this with the lowest council tax in West Yorkshire. I think it's astonishing. So thank you for bringing it forward, Michelle. It's absolutely amazing work.
You want to come back on that, Councillor Collins, or are you happy to move?
I just say, Councillor Byford is absolutely right in that if you look at some of the statistics, less than 1% of the complaints in terms of bins collected, out of 4,022 adults who we deliver social care to, 1% of them only 40 complaints were upheld. If you look at the figures, while statistics might sort of percentages might look big, if you look into the actual smaller figures, very few people have reason to complain to the council, and I think, as Councillor Byford said, should be celebrated.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Councillor Collins. Can we agree this report then and note it? Thank you very much, colleagues. That concludes the public part of the agenda. The next item is exempt under the Local Government Act 72, so it will be heard in private. Therefore, can I please request that the live stream is turned off and get confirmation when that has taken place?